players, Sniper Wolf 1001 here with another figure unboxing and review, and today we're going to take a look at the Metal Robot Damashii Hi-Nu Gundam. Now, I haven't collected a Robot Damashii in quite a while, ever since I started collecting metal builds, but I've been eyeing them for a while, and I thought it's pretty cool how they've started doing this whole hybrid metal-plastic build with a lot of their Gundams lately, and the Hi-Nu Gundam is also another one of my favorite Gundams from the franchise, so I'm really excited to take a look at this and unbox it. So, just taking a look at the box, I really like the aesthetic on it. It's very stylized. Of course, we have like some of the lettering here in like silver and gold, looking very nice, very shiny, whatever. Of course, we have the Hi-Nu here standing there, looking pretty cool. Of course, like a little image of its close up of its head right there. Looking to the side of the box, of course, very aesthetic. We have the little emblem there on the right side, looking pretty cool. And of course, up top here, I kind of like how the top looks. Very simple, but kind of fancy in a little way as well too. Taking a look at the back, just one image here of the Hi-Nu flying off in the distance there. And then of course here, it's kind of showing off the features of the metal build of this of the Robot Damashii series here. As you can see right here at the bottom, it says hybrid material, and I think what that means is that this mech is not completely metal. I think from what it shows on the back of the packaging there, I think it's actually using metal for the skeleton, or like the frame of the Hi-Nu. But the majority of the parts are plastic. So I think that's what it means by that. But taking a look at all of the parts that come out of this, there's actually a lot of stuff here. So, of course, we have the Hi-Nu Gundam right here. We have our assortment of beam effect parts here, long ones and short ones. We have, I think this is like the hyper bazooka, the beam rifle. Of course, we have the cool looking shield right here, booster pack right up there. We got like the propellant tanks. Various assortment of hands right here, beam sabers, another attachment part. So we get like a lot of stuff here. On top of that too, there's another package underneath it which comes with all of the various fin funnels. Alright, taking a look at the Hi-Nu out of all the packaging. The Hi-Nu visually is a very nice looking model. Robot Damashii, I think they did a pretty good job recreating this. You can see the colors. I'm really liking the colors. You got these nice whites going down the main part of the body, highlighted by these nice blue parts as well here. I'm loving a lot of the imprints. Like you have the model number there right here on the shoulder. You got 01 up here at the top. You of course have the emblem right there on that shoulder, just right as the camera focuses, right there. A lot of really cool imprints on here. Even on the knee right here, 01, you know, you got all of this here, which is pretty cool. Even down here, they have like the caution warning signs on this little plate here on the leg. And I guess this is a little bit what I was talking about when it was referring to the hybrid material, because you can see right in here, this little gold piece, this is actually metal. But everything else in here, I mean, everything else outside the mech, all of these parts, all of the body parts are actually plastic. So I think the metal is more reserved for the interior skeleton as opposed to covering the entire mech in metal, which is pretty interesting. But getting on to articulation, starting from the bottom up, taking a look at the foot. So the foot goes down. It doesn't seem like it goes down any further than this. So this is about as far as you can move it down. Moving the foot up goes up about that high. Moving the foot around, you have a bit of range of motion here, mainly like side to side movement. You can move it a decent ways to the left and right. So it seems like the foot is a little bit restrictive. It doesn't really go down at all. And your upward movement, it's okay. Not that bad, but like it is definitely restricted a little bit. Moving upward, all of these parts seem to be pretty solid. Taking a look at the back here, you can see some really shiny thrusters right there. Really shiny leg thrusters right back there. You can see it's kind of highlighted by a nice red on the interior of the thruster there, lined with a beautiful silver out there. Kind of covered up by this little white piece here, which is kind of interesting. Now to articulating the leg. So just above the leg here, you have the little side skirts here, or like the front skirts, which of course move around. Much like the metal builds, they move around, and I think you can pop these in and out as well too. So these can move freely. So moving this up, for a leg bend, the Hainu's leg seems to go up about that high. And just a comparison with the lower straight leg, you can see it goes up about that high. That's about as far as the leg can bend. Bending the leg backward, of course you can fold it back quite a bit, which is not too bad. So to straighten it out. Also another thing, this mech is actually very stiff too, which I guess is expected from like a metal build. But of course, yeah, you can move it back pretty far. These skirts, these back skirts, you can actually pop these out. If I pop this out, you could probably move the leg up even higher than this. But that's about the movement you can get with the leg. From in and out, if I move this skirt a little bit out of the way, the leg seems to go out about that far out, which is not bad at all. Comparing that with the straight leg, it's actually a pretty nice angle you get with the leg there, so that's pretty nice. Looking at the chest, so for an ab crunch down, the chest goes down about that far there. So the Hainu can look down about that far. Going backwards, it goes back about that far. Okay, and then going for a little rotation, it seems that the Hainu goes about that far out from the center, rotating it. Looking at the arms now, so the hands, or the fists rather, of course you can swap these out, so you're going to have quite a bit of movement with them. On the arm here, so of course you can coil this in. So it seems like you can coil the arm in pretty far. It seems like it goes in about that far, and then straightening it out about that far as well too, and then stretching it this way. The arm will go out about that far. I think that is actually restricted there. It's not even restricted by the shoulder. This seems to be about as far as it can go out. Of course, you have a nice range of motion here, so you can move the arm all the way up. You can move it completely around as well too, because I think that's sitting on a ball joint right there. The one thing that's actually interesting is how this shoulder piece actually pops in and out. So you can see right there, if I push this in, it actually moves the arm out, and then pull it out, it actually pushes it down, which is kind of cool. Now looking at the head, of course the head, you can rotate it not completely around. It is kind of restricted a little bit by some of the pieces hanging down. But of course you have a lot of movement. Looking down goes about that far, so to look down that much. Going backwards up about that high. So you got a decent amount of movement here. It is a little bit restricted though. Alright, so taking a look at the shield. Again, it's very beautifully designed, much like the rest of the Hainu here. Of course, we have more of that blue and white paint scheme, which looks, honestly, I really love the way that it looks on the shield. It looks really good, because it's almost kind of like in almost like a camouflage pattern here, which is kind of cool. You know, how you have some of the blues kind of bleeding off, and then like the blue doesn't kind of complete. It kind of goes out into a white here. You know, very nice looking. The blue going all the way down. And of course, you know, you have the emblem right there at the top, 01, of course, all of those imprints there, which is pretty cool. Looking at the back side here, a lot of detail here. It seems like that would be the mounting point for the connection there on the back. And then the little vents right here, just underneath, looking really good. The shield, honestly, I'm really impressed with the shield. And the thing that's nice is that this little silver that they use for the emblem here, because it does reflect light pretty nicely. Alright, so taking a look at the Hainu's beam rifle here. Again, cool looking beam rifle. Very simplistic in terms of colors. You know, you have your whites and then silvers. There are a few imperfections on this one, on mine at least. They're very hard to notice. I'm not really sure if you can really see it in the camera, but yeah, I don't think you can. But on right here on this part of the frame, there's a couple of black lines here that I can see going all the way out up to about this point here. Again, you can't really see it on the camera, but in the lighting, it's definitely a little visible. There's definitely some black marks up here on this top portion of the frame. I think that might be some paint bleed off from this black line here, right in this part of the frame as well too. And then looking on to this side, again, there's a couple of imperfections here on the beam rifle. I don't think it's gonna focus on that. Oh, okay, there we go. If you can just see that, just barely, you can see that there's a little bit of indentation. If this would just focus, there we go. So you can see that there's a little bit of indentation right there on the frame. So there are a few imperfections on this beam rifle, but it's nothing that's too crazy. It's nothing that you're really gonna notice from far away. It's still a nice looking piece. Alright, so taking a look at the Hi-Nu's propellant tanks. Again, very nicely detailed like the rest of the Gundam here. Of course, we got more EFSF imprints here on the propellant tanks. We've got some nice red detailing here on each of these little sections, like the little black segmented lines here, which look really good. Taking a look at the actual on this port here, you can see it has like a nice bronze color, which is you know, I like how that completely offsets the rest of the colors on the propellant tank here. It's a really shiny bronze that they have here. Of course, it's still plastic, but it's a nice looking reflective piece here, which is pretty cool. Alright, so taking a look at the thruster backpack here for the Hi-Nu. Of course, looking really good visually. We got the EFSF down here on the thrusters. Of course, it's carrying out that nice white and blue aesthetic that the Hi-Nu has all around it. Of course, taking a look at this, we have more of these very shiny reflective silver parts here. Right here, we have this wing piece here, which you can remove this. So you just pull out, and this, you can just remove it pretty easily. Goes back in pretty easily as well too. It has a little bit of movement, so you can of course move this up and down. You can drop it all the way down that far as well, and then go up about that high. And then on the thrusters, there's a bit of articulation here, so you can see that there's two joints. There's this joint here, and then this little circular joint. So this big joint here is going to allow you to you can actually like pull this all the way down, and then this is going to rotate on that joint there. On this joint, you can also pull this out. So of course you can sit it out about that far. So you can definitely adjust how you want these thruster pieces to sit. Looking really nice. There's a lot of range of motion that you have with these thrusters, which is actually pretty cool. Of course, you can stretch them up all the way up high like that too. A lot of movement you can get with this. It's actually kind of reminds me of the Destiny's weapon packs with the maneuverability that you have with this. Of course, visually, I'm liking the little tubes that you have down under here underneath the thrusters. The thrusters, again, with that nice red on the inside and then the little silver lining it, which is looking pretty good. Alright, so taking a look at the thruster piece again. So with the wing piece, so when you detach this wing piece here, we get this additional part here, like this additional wing piece, which again looks very nice visually. The colors are very solid. Of course, we have additional thrusters right down in here, but then you can just mount this right in that same spot where that wing we took out was, and then of course we can have that mounted right in, and of course you have similar amount of articulation with it, so you just move it down, move it all the way down like that. Of course, it goes up about that high. Okay, so taking a look at the various funnels, liking the detail with how each individual funnel is numbered here. But taking a look at some articulation, the funnels, of course, have a lot of range of motion. You can see right here, of course, you can fold it in like this, so it's kind of like in its autonomous mode here. And then, of course, you can fold them in on each other. So this would be how they'd be if they're stowed in the wings. I've always kind of liked this visual with the funnels, at the very least on the Hi-Nu, and I guess the Nu as well too, where when the funnels collapse in on each other, I kind of like how one is it's not necessarily shorter, but because this main part folds down along with the other wing, it kind of gives the illusion that that one side of the funnel is shorter than the other. And it's just kind of nice because just having this little aesthetic where you have like the blue kind of not completely ending off, but then going straight into white. I always kind of like that little detail there. It's pretty cool. But again, like the funnels looking really nice. A lot of movement on them. Definitely some really nice looking pieces. So taking a look at the beam rifle here, I already decided to fully assemble it. Really nice aesthetic. Love the blue energy effect parts here for the beam saber. Of course, I went ahead and mounted in one of the hands already. The hands, honestly, I'm really liking the hands on the Hi-Nu Gundam because they seem to hold their weapons and their attachment points pretty tightly, pretty securely. You can see that this hand, it's in there pretty tight. You know, I'm trying to wiggle it. There's not really any movement. Even sliding it in, it goes in very securely, which is nice. Always like this aesthetic where, like, you know, you have this shorter beam effect part on the end here, which is pretty cool. Definitely a really nice opaque blue that they have going on with this. It's a really beautiful looking effect part here. So here, just showing quick assembly of the stand and my impressions of it. So of course, the stand arm's going to sit right in here. The thing that's kind of interesting is how they have this little cover that sits in there. But you can just put the bottom of the stand, push it right through. It'll pop the cover out on the underside here, you can see, and then you can just pull that right out. And then just have that sit completely in the stand like that. Now, looking at the stand and the various points of movement that it has, you can see that right here, of course, it has a movement, like a joint right here. So you can, of course, move this down. It seems it goes back down about that far. And then joint goes back about that far as well, too. So it has, like, some nice movement there. Of course, you can swivel it around. Up top, there's a little joint here, which, of course, this will mount directly into the Hi-Nu. This is going to move from side to side, or counterclockwise or clockwise, however you prefer. And that'll give you some movement there. And then, of course, this top joint just underneath that mounting part will move forward as well, too. Move forward and back. So you can see it goes down pretty low, goes down pretty far like that, and then going all the way back like that. So it appears that this stand will have quite a bit of movement and functionality here. So here, I finally have the Hi-Nu completely assembled, have it up on the stand. So now just taking a brief look at the figure, now that everything is all assembled, I put in all of the fin funnels into the backpack. I put on some of its weapons. Of course, I put on the shield here. That little black attachment part that was in the packaging earlier, that kind of wraps around this arm and is used for mounting in the shield, which is kind of interesting. Of course, I've got the beam rifle in. And honestly, with the figure completely assembled like this, it is a really nice looking piece. Of course, with the fin funnels on the back, you know, it has a very nice looking silhouette. And on top of that too, going back onto the thrusters, those little black tubing spots that I was talking about earlier, these individual parts, of course, they were used for mounting points for the funnels, of course. But those little tubes, they spin around, so it allows you to actually move the funnels in and out like this, which is actually pretty cool. You have a lot of movement in that thruster backpack for articulating these funnels a little bit more, which is actually pretty cool. I like the fact that you could do that. Of course, I have the propellant tanks in the back here. Of course, they mount into those two nubs that were shown earlier on the bottom of the backpack. Of course, you have a lot of movement with these, since it's kind of just on a ball on the back there, right? So there's a lot of movement you can do with the propellant tanks. You can move them pretty much anywhere you want. Of course, they look really good. Adds a little bit extra to the Hi-Nu's size, of course. Of course, it kind of adds to its silhouette as well too, which is really nice. Of course, we got the fin there on the backpack looking really good. Honestly, this is a really nice looking mech. Robot Damashii, I think, did a pretty good job recreating this as well too. With the actual, well, taking a look at the holding hand that I have in for the beam rifle, again, this is I'm thinking that they did a pretty good job with the hands here. Again, like when I mentioned the beam saber, the holding hands that they have for the beam rifle, again, they're just the same. Like they're pretty tight. They hold the weapon pretty nicely. You can see if I spin this around to this side here, you can see like the little trigger finger part. They have it wrapped right inside the trigger part there, so it holds it in. The mounting for the handle going into the hand is actually pretty tight, so you don't have to worry about this. This won't wobble. You can see I'm trying to wobble it. There's no movement there. It's pretty solid. It's going to hold the weapon nicely. You're not going to lose your poses, and it's going to look nice doing all of that. So definitely the hands seem to be pretty well designed on this Hi-Nu. I'm really liking that. And with the figure completely assembled, definitely looking really nice as well too. So here I mounted the Hyper Bazooka right into the Hi-Nu here, have those holding hands in for the Hyper Bazooka, and just like with the Beam Saber and the Beam Rifle, the hands specific to the Hyper Bazooka do a pretty good job at holding the weapon. Again, they're very tight fit, but they're very secure. They're gonna sit in there very nicely. They're not gonna fall out or anything. Of course, you know, you have the handle which moves. You can move the handle forward and back, so you can definitely adjust your positions on it really nicely. And honestly, this looks really nice on the Hi-Nu by itself. It's a very nice looking piece. Like, I really like the design on the Hyper Bazooka here. I feel that posing it is a little weird just because of the back end here. But apart from that, it's a very nice looking weapon piece here. It goes really well with the aesthetic of this Gundam for sure. Alright, so here we got the Hi-Nu Gundam wielding its beam saber here. And just another feature which I thought was actually pretty cool that they recreated here was that, taking a look at the backpack again, you can actually access the beam saber storage compartments here. So you can see right back here, we have these little compartments here, and you can just pull up. You can see that there's little tabs here on each side. You can kind of pull up on them. They might be a little tricky to get open, but just like that, you can open up that storage compartment. And of course, you can just toss the beam saber in there. You don't even really have to fit it in there. You can actually just drop it right in, and then you can just close this right on top of the beam saber, just like that. And then of course you can just have the beam sabers stored in there, which is actually pretty cool. But then yeah, when you open it up, you can see that the beam saber is going to sit tucked right into that little storage part, and of course you can pull it out whenever you want. So I think that's actually pretty cool. I love the fact that they recreated that. It's a nice, cool feature that they have for this here. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in regards to the Metal Robot Damashii Hi-Nu Gundam. If I were to conclude the video and go to my final thoughts, I personally think that Robot Damashii has come a long way since the Robot Damashii Strike Freedom and the Destiny Gundam and like the other Gundams in that era. I'm actually pretty impressed with the metal build, or the Metal Robot Damashii Hi-Nu Gundam here. Visually, it looks really good. Of course, like the paint's very nice. I definitely like the fact that Robot Damashii has been, at least in the Metal series, I like how they've definitely been doing more imprints and markings on the Gundams to make them look a lot more aesthetic. That was actually one thing when I compared my Metal build Strike Freedom to my Robot Damashii Strike Freedom, that you know, I liked it goes without saying that the Metal build is just drastically better in terms of quality, but when we're just talking about straight visuals, the Robot Damashii is definitely very faithful to the anime, but I liked the direction that they went with the metal build, where they decided to make it look a little bit more eye-catching, where they put they put the affiliations on it, they put the logos, they put the name and like the different imprints and markings all over the mech. Definitely makes it look a lot better. Plus, I feel like as a military, like for a weapon, you're definitely gonna see a lot more markings as opposed to it being very, very clean and almost like almost sterile. So I definitely like the fact that Robot Damashii has been doing this. Like this Hi-Nu is looking really good. Of course, I love the stand, love the black and gold detailing that they have right down here at the bottom. It's a very fancy looking stand. In terms of posability, it's not perfect, because it does suffer from some lack of posability in some areas, like with the feet. The feet don't really have too much movement. You can't really move the foot down at all. You can move it around from side to side and stuff, but like it is definitely a little limiting there. In terms of the legs, there's decent movement there. The arms are pretty good. And then the chest movement, movement's decent there as well too. So like, and then of course you have like a lot of the other moving parts, like the side skirts, the front skirts, and the back skirts, which all are very movable. You can pop them out and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. So in terms of posability, it's definitely not bad, and I honestly really love the posability that they have with the fin funnels here too. I love the fact that these like individual tubes inside the thrusters can move around, so of course you can rotate these around, move them wherever you want. Of course, the freedom of movement that you have on the actual thrusters on the backpack is really nice, of course, too. And then it goes without saying, the propellant tanks, really nice movement that you have there as well too, looking really nice as well. So in terms of posability, it's definitely not bad. It's pretty decent actually. In terms of like the weapons, I like the way that the weapons looked visually. Of course, like they're not perfect. Like I said before, there were some imperfections that I had on my weapons. Like both the beam rifle and the hyper bazooka had some paint issues. Granted, they weren't very big. Like if you looked at this from across the room, even if you were a little close up to the mech, you're not really gonna see it. But it's only on very close inspection where you might notice some of the paint bleed off that they have, at least with mine. So there's definitely some issues there, but barring all of that, the weapons still looked really good. And the thing that I really loved was the fact that, you know, the weapon, the hands do a really good job holding the weapons, and that's definitely another thing. Kind of looking retroactively at like the the Robot Damashii Strike Freedom, where that was honestly one of the worst Gundams that I've had to deal with in terms of like holding weapons. Like I don't know what they were thinking when they made that, because it was like they only made one set of hands, and it was kind of like a one size fits all type of deal. And of course they don't do a good job of holding any other weapons, so that was a little silly. But honestly, with the Hi-Nu, there are definitely no issues there. The hands are really good, they hold the weapons in really nicely, very solid. You're not going to lose your poses, so that's definitely really good. Another thing that I like here is the features. Again, going back onto the backpack here, where, you know, you had the little beam saber storage compartment here in the thruster here, where you could just pop this up, and then of course you have the beam saber just stored in there, and of course you could just close it in. Pretty cool looking feature. I think I'm honestly gonna have my beam sabers just stored in there, because I think that's just really cool. They close in really nicely, they're very tight and secure. In terms of joint strength and stuff, this it's very solid. A lot of the joints seem to be pretty stiff. You're not going to be losing your poses anytime soon, which is nice. I think the shoulders might have some loose joints here. Not too loose, but like these are definitely a lot looser than the rest of the joints on the body here. You can just see how easily this moves. But the leg joints are definitely very, very stiff. So there shouldn't be too many issues with the legs moving out of place in regards to that. So, you know, feature-wise, it was great. Honestly, I'm very satisfied with this Hi-Nu Gundam. I think this is, if you want a Hi-Nu Gundam, and, you know, if you're just interested in a Robot Damashii, the Metal Robot Damashii series, I honestly think this is a very safe purchase. But with all that said, that's gonna bring this video to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys found it informative. There's definitely gonna be a lot more unboxings and figure reviews coming in the future, a lot more Gundam stuff. So if you're interested in that, then stay tuned. But for now, I hope you guys have a good day or good night, depending on where you are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.